elements of individual rights, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of intellectual expression, freedom of religion, open borders, so you can leave the country, etc. Some economic freedoms, right to private property, right to start your own company and make a profit, etc. Mixed in with all kinds of government controls. Heavy taxation, welfare state, the coercive redistribution of income from the productive to the non-productive, heavy regulation of business. In America, the alphabet agencies, the SEC, the FTC, the FDA, you can go on and on. So there's a mixed economy. Morally, let's look at them morally and practically. Morally, they're a combination of freedom and status. They combine a recognition of your right to your own life with an abrogation of your right to your own life, with governmental power to initiate force against you. Whether the government is granted the power to seize somebody's land by eminent domain, or whether the government is granted the power to prohibit you developing on your own property, or prohibiting oil companies from developing the oil by environmentalist legislation, or a thousand other such restrictions. It involves. It's a combination of the government protecting your right to your own life and the government violating your right. So it's a morally mixed system. Practically, of course, the capitalist elements lead to economic growth and prosperity, and the socialist elements lead to to the curtailment of that, to the undermining of it. So let's put it this way: capitalism is freedom and prosperity. Socialism, as any form of statism, is governmental suppression and consequently poverty. So you're simply mixing in elements of poison with elements of sustenance. And the thing that's necessary, of course, is to extirpate the statist elements and have a socialist system. Who wants to mix health with illness? So a mixed economy is simply a combination of capitalism and socialism. And if you want freedom and prosperity, you excise the socialist elements. That's what's necessary. Yeah, in the back.
Would you characterize American economic system was like one third capitalism, one third socialism, the other third is fascism? Like fascism is basically the government said there is such a thing as private property, but we tell you how to control it and what to do with it. Example would be like smoking bans in the US.
Right.
The government tells you, it's your private property, it's your business, but we tell you you can't allow smokers in that. So is it a socialism would be, like social security as socialistic retirement?
Well, it's an interesting question. I don't know how to quantify it in any exact terms, but he's asking. Would it be more exact to quantify the contemporary American system as 1/3 capitalism, 1/3 socialism, 1/3 fascism? I don't know how to quantify it. It's certainly large elements of capitalism with large elements of statism. You're right about the fascist element. I mean, fascism is literally, what that literally means is a system in which the government nominally recognizes private property. In other words, your name could still be on the deed. But it's a totalitarian system in which it dictates to you use and disposal of your property. So the best example would have been fascist Italy, of course, National Socialist Germany. So here's the example: Herr Schmidt, let's say, in Germany under Hitler, owns this heavy truck factory. He's been manufacturing trucks. The Nazis come to power. Remember Hitler's immortal line on this? He was talking about. Don't forget, they came to power in '33. The communists had already been in power for 15 years. The Soviet Union. They had, under Lenin and Trotsky, they'd already made hash out of the Soviet economy. They killed off the bankers and the industrialists under good Marxist principles, and they put party, apparatchik in charge, who were loyal to, Lenin and Trotsky, but didn't know the first thing about banking or steel. Economy tanks. Hitler says what makes the fascists superior. He said in a great line. He said the communists nationalized industries. Banks, he said the communists nationalized banks and industry. We nationalized bankers and industrialists. Oh, is that scary or what? He says, think about that. He said, the communists nationalized banks and industries. We nationalized bankers and industrials. So in other words, we're going to leave Herr Schmidt in charge of the heavy truck factory because he knows heavy trucks. My boys, the National Socialist Party guys, they know politics. They don't know how to manufacture heavy trucks. Now we want Herr Schmidt to manufacture tanks for the Reich. And Herr Schmidt says, well, Fuhrer, I'm really not interested in manufacturing tanks, but thanks anyway. And the Fuhrer says, Herr Schmidt, do you have a wife and children? Herr Schmidt's starting to get worried. Yes, Fuhrer. Do you love them? Yes, Fuhrer, very much. How would you like to manufacture tanks for the Reich? You get the drift. In other words, you know, if the Nazis kidnap Mrs. Schmidt, all the little Schmidts, their dog, their cats, their brothers, their sisters, everybody, stick them in a concentration camp, and if Herr Schmidt complies with the Führer's policies, then they're safe. If he does not, then they're executed. So, under fascism, there's a nominal commitment to private property, but it's by government permission or privilege. It's not by individual rights or no rights under the fascists. Nevertheless, I think you're right. That is really the statist element in the United States. For the most part, there's not outright nationalization of industries. It's you leave the industries and the banks in the hands of the industrialists and the bankers, but you simply control it from Washington. There's more of a fascist style element than it is a Marxist or communist one, where you take over the industry outright, you kill the class enemies, and you make it as part of the class warfare. So I think you're right. There's a large element of fascism in a literal sense in the American economy. I don't know how to quantify it, but certainly there's still large elements of individual rights combined with large elements of statism. Probably a distinctively fascist type. It's a mixed economy. And again, my point is you mix freedom with statism and you mix prosperity with poverty. Yeah?
What do you think of the fact that for the first time in history we have companies that are larger and more influential than many countries, and they don't really reside in a single country, that they can exist outside of countries, in multiple countries, have huge influence on their governments?
What do I think? That for the first time in history, there are companies that have larger gross national products than entire countries, and they don't really reside in any one country. They're multinationals and reside in any number of countries. I think it's great. I think we need a lot more of that. I think what's necessary, of course, is we need the principle of individual rights here. But for the most part, I never understood this basically Marxist mentality that they don't fear the government. They look at the government as a benign force, but they're afraid of Microsoft, or Walmart. And what the hell is Microsoft going to do to me? They can manufacture software that I don't want, I guess, and put it out on the marketplace, and I can refuse to buy it. Other than that, in a free country where individual rights are respected, super wealthy multinational corporations are not threatened. But I know what a government can do to me in the absence of individual rights, because they've seen the whole freaking history of it, going back to the Roman Empire and continuing through the Soviet Union, Nazi Germany, and the Taliban in Afghanistan, and the Ayatollahs in Iran. So when individual rights are in place, super wealthy multinational corporations are a threat to nobody. I mean, they could commit crimes, but they're crimes, and those guys, hell, they put Martha Stewart in jail. So multi-billion. Hey, I got a question for you. So Martha Stewart goes to jail. You guys remember this, right? Technically for obstruction of justice. This is a good example, I think, on the relative dangers of billionaire, business owners versus government officials, whether elected or appointed. So Martha Stewart goes to jail, technically for obstruction of justice in what was an insider trading case. Now I got a question for you. There was a guy who was some of you may be even too young to remember this, but I know some of you old enough to remember this. There's one guy in this whole country, I would argue, who benefited enormously from the atrocities of 9/11. I'll give you a hint. He's a politician. It's not Bush.